Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about building your own shortcuts. The objective for this presentation is that I want to inspire you to apply your own coding skills to automate the repetitive tasks in your life. And we're going to use a case study to kind of demonstrate why. Some background about me. My name is Autumn. I have a bachelor's degree in biomedical engineering. In the pursuit of that degree, I took a couple of programming courses. My roles since then have been in the software industry. I started as a researcher developing an XML language. I did some technical support. I've been a technology evangelist where I spend a lot of time writing papers and speaking at conferences, and I've done some product management. Currently, I'm a technical sales engineer, which means that I spend a lot of time modifying existing code to configure the software to meet a particular customer's unique requirements. So the point of this is that I am not a developer. I come to some of the Techlahoma presentations, and I might understand the first two slides and nothing else, but so I'm very much in the learning space, like the rest of us. There's that proverb, necessity is the mother of invention. In the software world, in my role, I am constantly under deadline, and so I'm always looking for the most efficient way to accomplish tasks. And because of that, out of necessity, I've gotten more creative in my problem solving, and usually that's through the help of code. Take, for example, a proof of concept that we recently did as a project. This means that we were customizing the software to meet a customer's requirements to prove that the software can do what they need it to do. In this particular case, we were using our software called Quark Author as an editing tool, and they would be using that to generate these daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual financial reports. One of their requirements was that they needed the software to automatically convert some of the commonly used language in their reports into Chinese or Japanese. To do this, I was handed a couple of source files. One of them was a sample report, 30 pages, that looked something like what you see on the screen. And the second source file, was a Excel spreadsheet with 3,200 rows in it that looked just like this, where it had three important columns. The first one is a code. The second is the name of a language, Japanese, English, or Chinese. And the third is column D there, which is the phrase that was going to be translated. So if multiple rows had the same code, they also had the same phrase, just in different languages. I started this translation project. So I was using XSLT to do a search for the English in the report and then replacing it with the Japanese or Chinese. So I started by visually scanning the sample report, looking for phrases that might be commonly used. Like in this example, you can see that the tables, that table in the lower right-hand corner has a 52-week range, market cap, shares outstanding. So those are the sorts of things that you would find in the Excel spreadsheet. I would go to that Excel spreadsheet, do a find, and look, so you can see here in row 8, we have the 52-week range that needs to be converted to a Chinese and Japanese string. And then I would copy and paste those strings into the XSLT. After about a half an hour of this, I had completed 6 translations. So you can probably do the math. At the rate it was going to take me days, if not weeks, for me to finish the translation of this. So my manual process had 3 problems. The first is time. I didn't have this kind of time to be spending on this translation. I had estimated 4 days for this part of the project, and we were under deadline, already behind schedule. The second problem was that it was a very tedious process. I maybe was going to kill myself before I finished it, because my idea of a good time is not spending days copying and pasting. The third problem is that the manual process had the potential to introduce a number of different errors into the process, and that would have given our customer a poor impression of our software, which is not what we want to do. We're trying to sell the software. The problem is that this wasn't the easiest task to automate in Excel, just because of the way it was structured. So if you are familiar with Excel, there's this tool in it called the record macro function, where you can press the record button, make a change to a cell, and then play that macro to repeat it for any cells in your selection. In this particular case, though, because of the structure of the Excel spreadsheet, the record macro functionality wasn't going to work. I knew that there was a way to run programs in Excel, but I didn't even know what language was used to write such programs. So I knew next to nothing about automating tasks in Excel. This means that I had to start by educating myself a bit, and I did that. I learned, first of all, that the language is called VBA, Visual Basic for Applications. I happen to be a book learner, so I've been collecting books about software and programming languages ever since I became an adult, and I happen to have a book in my library called Microsoft Excel 2013 Bible, which has a section in it about VBA specifically. So I spent about a half an hour reviewing that section, familiarizing myself with the concepts of VBA, and then I spent the next 4 hours cobbling together a program to automate the translation to XSLT. So this is what I came up with. This is the full program. It was 30 lines of code. At the end of the day, I had spent about 5 hours altogether putting this together. That included testing time and cleaning it up. Somebody who's proficient in VBA probably could have written the same code in about 30 minutes. But I still felt like this was a huge success. I was pretty excited because, as I said, I had estimated 4 days for this translation piece of the project. And this whole project ended up being something of a nightmare, where we just had problem after problem causing us setbacks. So this was scheduled for the end of the project. It was like a 2-month-long project, and it was near the end. And this was the first part of the project that I had completed in less time than I had estimated for it. So I was pretty excited about this. The thing is that a few years ago, I never would have attempted the shortcut with the VBA code. My thinking would have been, I'm already behind on this project. If I try this and I fail, then I will have wasted, several hours, several very crucial hours, very important hours on this, and I didn't have the time for it. So the implication there would have been that I would have assumed that failure was likely. Now, it is true that I was powerfully motivated in this case to build this shortcut, but I don't think I would have attempted it if I hadn't had increased confidence in my own coding skills. I knew that even though I didn't know anything about VBA, I kind of felt like most programming languages have similar constructs, so I felt pretty confident that I could do something with it. So it was a gamble, but I felt like it was one that had low risk and high reward. So this is just the latest example. Nowadays, whenever I'm faced with a mind-numbingly repetitive task, I consider the ways that I might be able to automate it. I'll always weigh whether it's going to be faster for me to learn how to automate it or faster for me to just go ahead with the manual tasks. If it does seem like I might save myself some time by automating it, then I consider what tools I can use, like maybe the Excel record macro functionality will work. In highly custom situations like this one, I will check to see if there's an API that I can use to build a solution, or I will check to see if there is a programming language that will suit my needs. So the last thing I want to leave you with is just a reminder, while you are in the learning phase, soak everything up as you can, because you never know when something is going to be applicable down the road. And also, as you gain experience, challenge yourself to build your own shortcuts.